Slurp your dirt, my G's. Hope you're all doing super sick. And today I've got a little tip for you guys with Vital. I was just designing a patch this morning, and then I thought of a new technique. It's sort of the effect of the technique is something that, you know, there's lots of ways to do it, but I found that this way was like really useful for when composing and helping to write some like more interesting groovy bass lines. So I'm going to call this technique velocity shifting, right? And here's a little bass that I've made. Here's one I made earlier. Let's have a little listen to this loop. And what you'll notice is aside from the sound design, that the actual groove of the bass, it's got a quite nice and steady movement, but it's not the same every time. It kind of changes up a little bit. And so we're going to dive into how I got that groove quite simply by using some velocity shifting. So what we've got is a Vital patch here that I've just made with 3 sine waves. And what I'll do is I'll quickly run through like how I made the sound. And one thing that I like to do on some of the sine waves is go in and tweak the kind of shape that we have here. So if you don't know how to do it, you click this little pencil button here, and you can draw in your own wave shape. Anyway, so the first bar here, you kind of want to leave that at 0, and then the second one, you bring up the second one, and it will make a sine wave. When you get to a certain point, it's just going to stay like a sine wave. And then you can add in some extra harmonics and change up the shape a little bit, just by adding a few random points sort of near the beginning. So that's all I've done there. And yeah, I've created this like kind of shape which is a little bit similar to a sine wave, but has some extra harmonics. And then this one is sort of down at -24, which is obviously going to be the low kind of sub bass part. So if I take the others off, and let's take off our effects. We've got quite a few things going on here, but we'll run through those quickly as well. So the first thing, obviously, is to have this sine wave with the harmonics. That's how it sounds on its own. Then the second one is another sine wave. This is just unaffected. This is at +7, so pretty high up. And what we're going to do is going to drag an LFO onto the level of this one. It's moving up and down nicely. We're going to do the same on a third one at -12. So just sort of padding out the mid-range a little bit more with that one. This one's going to have some stereo on as well. So just 5 voices at 6%. And then we're going to slam this through a bunch of distortion. So up nice and high, about 10 dB. Okay, that's going on our LFO as well. And we're going to also add in a little bit of noise. And that's also moving a little bit. So if we dive straight into the LFO and what's going on here, like I said, it's a nice slow and steady movement. So it's at 1/4, just a nice triangle shape. But we're modulating the phase slider again of this whole LFO with LFO2. So we're creating an LFO sandwich here. And what we're doing is we're just having a nice slow up and down kind of random shape. And you know, as we hold down the note and the sort of mouse progresses across the track, it's going to like speed up the LFO a little bit or slow down the little LFO a little bit from LFO1, you know, so nothing new there. You can see as it goes up, it starts to increase the speed of the first LFO. But what I've actually done in the MIDI, this is the kind of important part of this video, which hopefully you're still watching, otherwise you missed out. So here is the velocities that I've got. And basically they're all a different color, so each note has a different velocity. And what I thought I would do is I would track the velocity setting in Vital to, if it wants to load up here, to the slider phase position of LFO2. Okay, so that's going to mean, you know, if I change the velocity here, you can see it's going to start in a different position on our sort of LFO sandwich. So if I go down even more, it's going to go right to the beginning. So the low velocity is going to start right at the beginning, and a higher velocity will start sort of further up the curve. And this means that every time the note starts, it's going to be in a slightly different place in terms of that LFO sandwich groove. So that means that with each note that you draw in your MIDI, you can change the velocity, and it's going to have a different start position of the LFO2, which is modulating LFO1. So we've still got that overall interesting up and down movement, but we're just choosing where that's going to start by using the velocity. So by doing that, I've been able to write a bass groove which is a little bit more interesting, because if they were all sort of at the same velocity, all at 0, you know, not bad, but when I change it back again, I can like get a tighter control of the groove, you know, because just those little moments where the LFO speeds up or slows down, I've got a little bit more control over that, so I can fine tune, you know, how the notes will transition into each other. So just to recap, you know, pretty simple. It's sort of a 3-step modulation in a sense. LFO1 is just the main groove, just to get everything going, 1/4. LFO2, got a nice slow up and down movement of the shape, which is a little bit random, and we're modulating the slider of LFO1 with that at 100%, and that's just going to speed up or slow down LFO1 as we go up and down. So that's happening sort of naturally the whole time. And then the velocity is on the phase of LFO2, so we can control where each note is going to start in that sort of timeline of movement that we've created. So that's like the main point that I wanted to make with this video. So that's velocity shifting in Vital, I suppose. And yeah, so just to finish up the sound design, what I did is, as you can see here, we're FMing our two sort of higher up sine waves to the first one, because that, like, it kind of makes them a little bit more just growl a little bit nicer and sort of blends them together. But then also we're going to add in some filters here. So I've got oscillator 1 running through a low pass, gets nice and punchy there. And also we're going to have a filter 2 with a phaser on oscillator 1 and 3. And the important thing is, you know, although the movement that we created, you know, is sort of 3 steps, all of the articulations are going through LFO1, so they're all going to go through into that movement. So that's what makes it nice and cohesive always, and quite simple, really, you know. All right, so yeah, the next thing is then let's just finish off with the effects. So here we've got a little bit of reverb to start off with, and I'm just doing the low cut before here. So it's quite subtle. I haven't chosen to modulate that, I'm just leaving it for a little bit of room kind of sound. The chorus again here as well, just a little bit on the mix, also very subtle, taking out the low end of it as well. A little bit of extra stereo width and character. The delay as well, I've got a little bit of modulation on the mix, so it's at 0, but every time the LFO sort of comes up, we got a little bit of extra delay happening. It's very, very subtle in the mix, but makes a nice difference. Compressor, this one is quite important, so we're going to use it sort of as an OTT saturation, turning up the attack, turning down the release, and then I've just adjusted the high a very small amount to bring it down a little bit, and then on the mix I've put it on the LFO1. So you can hear that really sort of starts to bring out those details, and especially in the white noise, kind of saturates that all up nicely together. And then the filter. So just to finish up, we've got a little phaser filter as well. It's the phaser positive, and we're just mixing in a little amount of this, just a little bit of extra shaping in the mid-range here. makes a nice little difference. We could go ahead and quickly EQ it a little bit more as well. So let's get on a little band pass, a little band bell. Let's see if we can boost a nice area here somewhere. Yeah, it sounds pretty nice around sort of 800 just for this particular patch. And that's the main parts of this. Again, I've got the glide and legato on, and the voice is down to 1. The glide is up here, so they transition, the notes transition into each other a little bit smoother. But yeah, you could go ahead and change up your notes, you know, the velocity of your notes to get the groove that you want this way. So yeah, I hope that helps you guys. I hope it's a little helpful tip for you guys today. And thanks a lot for everyone watching. I've actually had more views. I've noticed more views in the last few weeks or month or two. And I've actually been editing videos less and just trying to think of better ideas that will help you with your production, and just focus more on that rather than the fancy stuff. So I'm glad that you still are rocking with the content. So I appreciate that. And thanks to everyone who grabbed my latest Vital preset pack as well. That really means a lot to me. Helps me afford to buy empanadas and things here in Colombia. I'm in Cali, Colombia right now, which is a great city. I just got here yesterday. And yeah, got a lot of exploring to do. And might do a little bit of salsa as well, because it's the salsa capital. So I might be having my first salsa class later this evening. But yeah, thanks a lot, guys, for watching. I'm also still available for one-on-one mentorship as well. If you are interested in that, you can book in directly from my website. I have like a calendar, syncs up to your time zone. If you find an available slot, you can just feel free to book yourself in, and we'll get started straight away. Anyway, peace out, my guys. Much love. See you soon.